And we're back on Buckeye Talk, and it's time to make our game predictions. Ohio State versus Penn State at noon on Fox on Saturday. The line is 4.5. Ohio State favored by 4.5 points. The over and under is 45 right now. Nathan, who you got?
We should say that's our benefactors at DraftKings that have 4.5 and an over under 45. It's all over the place right now. So I did not make my pick based on necessarily that line. I kind of made it in a vacuum because it's been sliding around, and it just so happens to be like razor thin on the edge of those numbers. So I'm taking Ohio State 24-20, which would be not covering that spread, but also under the 45 total. And I really went back and forth on this because there was a point this week where I think I was ready to predict Penn State to win this game. But at the end of the day, there's one team. I think these are two great defenses. I think Penn State has been great against a different level of opponent. I think Ohio State's been a little bit more tested and has come out of those tests. So I think there's an equal. You can call both of these defenses great at this point relative to the rest of college football. So then I think it comes down to who can make the plays on offense. And there's one team that I have more confidence in the top end of their playmakers than I do the other. And that happens to be also the home team in this case. So I think this is going to be a 4-quarter fight. I think this is going to have to be a huge game for this offensive line because Penn State is very motivated to come after and take this away from Ohio State and end a lot of years of frustration in this series. And I think this is going to have to be a huge game for this defense. Penn State has not been explosive to this point. I don't think that means they can't be explosive. And I think Ohio State has to keep them in their place. It's sort of part of the Ryan Day legacy that he has kept Penn State in its place in this conference. And I think that analogy works, that term works in a couple of ways. This defense has to do that and keep them in front of them at all times and make Penn State drive for points. If it does that, I think it wins this game. And Ryan Day then has to orchestrate this week, he and his staff, to keep Penn State where they have been, just good, but underneath Ohio State. So again, 24-20, Ohio State win.
So Penn State covers and the under in that situation. I'm saying Ohio State wins 27-17, but the game is not going to be a 10-point game the entire day. I think that last 7 points Ohio State gets is like the explosive touchdown that you've seen Travion Henderson get at sometimes, or they connect with Marvin Harrison Jr. and he makes somebody miss. They just score late, so a very late cover. I think the game it might be 20-17 headed into Ohio State's last meaningful drive, real drive, where they're driving down the field, and I think an explosive play might happen in that situation. I'm with you. I think it's going to be hard to come by points. I think it's going to be a back and forth affair. I think Penn State is going to challenge Ohio State's offense and its defense to an extent. And I think this is Ohio State's not going to struggle to score, but it's not going to be a reflection of their offense the way it has been at other points in the season. I think it's going to be because this defense that Penn State has is just that good, that Manny Diaz might dial up some stuff that stagnates Ohio State's offense at times. Well, also Ohio State might do the same thing to Penn State at times. So 27-17, Ohio State covers very, very late. I mean, like in the last 4 minutes of the game, very, very late. They cover, but it's still taking the under because I do think that defense is going to end up winning this game. Andrew, what's your game score?
Yeah, I also had 24-20, actually, Ohio State to win. This is a game where I think if it was in Happy Valley, I would pick Penn State, but it's in Columbus, and I'm picking Ohio State. This is a game where it's going to come down to one or two plays in either direction. And I think Ohio State just has that one or two extra guys on the offensive side of the ball. Even if Emeka Egbuka's out, I mean, you still have Marvin Harrison Jr. and Penn State doesn't. I think you still have, that type of playmaker on the offensive side of the ball that Penn State doesn't. But yeah, Penn State is going to give you a remarkably good fight. And the more that I think about this game, the more that I'm starting to get Notre Dame vibes a little bit, because with Penn State, this very much feels like, if not now, when, like Penn State is kind of building for this game and building for this moment. And hey, look, they've had great defenses in the past, or, they've had, really good quarterbacks, NFL quarterbacks, or, NFL level running backs, and they've had all of these great things. And it just kind of feels like, all right, well, now they've put together a lot of this, right? If you feel good about the offensive line, if you feel good about the running backs, which you should, if you feel good about Drew Aller, if you feel good about the receivers, which a little dicey, but if you feel good about most of that, you can feel good about their offense. Their defense, it speaks for itself. We've talked about how good they are, both kind of in the counting stats and some of the advanced metrics. Penn State's defense might be the best defense in the country. And I just think of this game for Penn State as this very much has a feel of, well, we've got everything going for us now. This is our chance to take down Ohio State. Like, this is the chance for us to go into the shoe and do something that is really special and really cool, because it's not just, this is a win to put us on the map. Like, was that 2016 game or whatever it was? This is not just a win for Penn State to get on the map. This is a win for Penn State to say, we can compete for a national championship this year. So Penn State's going to be really motivated. I think they're going to have some things up their sleeve because of that. We've talked about their explosive play rate. They know that. They're going to do some things, I think, to try and shake some things up. But Ohio State is just going to have one or two extra dudes that can make a play that are just that much better, just a smidge better than what Penn State has. So it's going to be close. It's going to go under. Penn State's going to cover, but Ohio State's going to win.
So that's 3 Ohio State wins, 1 Ohio State cover, and 3 unders. That's Ohio State versus Penn State on Saturday at noon inside of Ohio Stadium. Those are our game picks here on Buckeye Talk.